Let's do more with our GPS. Here is the first leg of the multi-leg flight that we flew in part 2 of this video series. But our moving map can't have a course line to follow. Nor can it have a column of data beside the GPS screen. There you go. The moving map is simply the GPS display with no flight plan loaded. But we have a problem. We loaded the flight plan to print the nav log, which gave us the flight details. Now we must remove the flight plan to get our empty GPS. To remove the flight plan, we exit Flight Simulator and then restart it. Do not, repeat, do not save your flight before doing this. That would reload the flight plan back into our GPS when we reload the flight. Here we have just departed from Boston. GPS range is 20 nautical miles. The blue airports have a control tower. At the 10 nautical mile range setting, we have a better view of the runway layouts of nearby airports. Here we are approaching our first waypoint, the Putnam VOR. Note the magenta-colored airport at the bottom of the screen. That is an uncontrolled airport, no control tower. It's good to know the two airport types in the event of an unscheduled landing. Here we are only a few miles from the Putnam VOR. This particular VOR symbol denotes the presence of a DME. Not all VORs include a DME. In those instances, the moving map is particularly helpful to estimate arrival at the VOR in the face of unpredictable and turbulent winds. Note the different VOR symbols. On the left is a VOR only, and on the right is a VOR with a DME. Here is the CQX NDB at Chatham Airport on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, as it appears on the Flight Simulator map. We will take a 36 nautical mile NDB flight from Chatham Airport to Plymouth Airport in strong, gusty winds. As you can see, our required bearing is 308 degrees. Nothing is more challenging than an outbound NDB flight when wind forecasts are doubtful and variable. The lateral sensitivity of the NDB signal decreases with distance, and there is no distance information available to help. We are at our midpoint in the flight. The visibility is 5 miles in haze, with winds from the west-southwest gusting to 36 knots. Not much is visible out the windshield. Our calculated wind correction angle is 8 degrees left, or a heading of 300 degrees to maintain a 308 degree course. Since we are flying outbound from the NDB, the ADF needle will point behind us. The ADF needle must point to a bearing reciprocal to our course, or 128 degrees. The moving map shows that our aircraft bearing is 308 degrees, exactly what we desired, so our wind correction angle calculation worked out well. But if we just proceed ahead, maintaining our 8-degree wind correction angle, we may be blown off the desired track as we descend and slow for the approach, as shown here, where we are 5 degrees to the right of our desired bearing of 308 degrees. In low visibility flights, with that error, no airport may be found in our windshield at the expected arrival time. The solution? Watch your aircraft bearing at the top of the GPS moving map screen, and then manually adjust your aircraft heading when that number drifts away from your desired track. That certainly is easier than monitoring your bearing using the small ADF gauge on your front panel. And here is your reward for using that procedure. A better airport-to-airport flight plan than we learned in Part 1? How could that be? Let's consider a flight from Phoenix, Arizona, about 1,100 feet MSL, to Tucson, Arizona, about 2,600 feet MSL. Here's the flight plan as created with the Direct button on the GPS. Now let's create a direct airport-to-airport GPS flight plan using the Microsoft Flight Planner. But in the Choose Routing box, tick the Direct GPS button rather than the VOR to VOR button used in Part 2. If you think this looks exactly like the GPS flight plan created with the Direct button, you are correct, except for the addition of the KPHX in the From To section at the bottom of the screen. Here's where the Flight Planner GPS plan excels. It suggests a cruising altitude appropriate to the direction of flight, which also provides the necessary terrain clearance. While many pilots are content to fly with their autopilots coupled to the GPS, others prefer to fly their aircraft manually in conjunction with the GPS. Here we are, ready to fly a dead reckoning flight from Boston to Hartford, Connecticut. We will cruise at 6,500 feet, and initial climb heading is 278 degrees. Most important though, keep the nav GPS switch in the nav position. Here are the GPS flight details just before takeoff. Our desired track to KHFD is 258 degrees. Our present track is 216 degrees, the orientation of runway 22 right at KBOS, where we await takeoff clearance. And here is the key number when manually flying, the course to steer. Our aircraft will turn to 278 degrees after takeoff to intercept our desired track of 258 degrees. If we manually maintain the course to steer headings posted here, we will remain on course throughout the flight. Initially desired, but because of the strong crosswinds, the GPS is instructing a course to steer of 270 degrees. The GPS is instructing a course to steer of 258 degrees as we near our intercept point with the desired track to KHFD. We are now at cruise altitude, but because of the strong crosswinds, our course to steer is 253 degrees to maintain a track of 258 degrees. You'll be busy with your GPS during climb and intercept of your main course line, but don't ignore your other gauges. This method of manual flying with the GPS is popular because it is similar to the familiar tracking of a VOR signal. First, we will simplify our panel to better illustrate the procedure. We replace the HSI with a DG and replace the radio altimeter with a VOR one. Setting up for this method of flying the GPS is very simple. Begin by preparing the usual multi-leg GPS flight plan. In this example, we will fly from Boston to Groton, Connecticut. Note the 233 degrees initial course to steer. We will begin our manual flight with the same heading. Next, we set the VOR1 OBS to our desired track of 254 degrees. When flying in the GPS position, the OBS does not affect the VOR needles. However, it does help avoid confusion and reminds us of our desired track. And finally, put the nav GPS switch into the GPS position. Here is our flight plan. Even midpoint over the runway, we see our desired track drifting off to the left. And our VOR needle is moving left slightly too, indicating the need for a course correction to the left. And left to 233 degrees after clearing the runway. And on our way to course intercept. Finally, on our way to Putnam VOR. When the VOR coupled to the GPS deflects the needle 4 dots, or the VOR receiving a VOR signal deflects the needle 4 dots, they are providing very different information. Let's first consider the VOR coupled to the GPS. Here we are deliberately off course to create a 4-dot deflection of the VOR needle. Note that our cross-track error is exactly 4 nautical miles, or 1 nautical mile per dot of needle deflection. This holds true regardless of the distance to the waypoint, with some exceptions to be noted later. Here the VOR is receiving a signal from the VOR station. We have again turned off course for a 4-dot needle deflection. An 8-degree tracking error causes a 4-dot needle deflection of the VOR. This 2-degree per dot error remains constant regardless of distance from the waypoint. Of course, if the nav receiver is tuned to a localizer signal, typically an ILS approach, the needle sensitivity increases to 1/2 degrees per dot. Here we are on the home stretch to New London Airport. A pleasant sight at the end of an easily flown VOR-style flight. Be aware that not all third-party VORs will couple to the GPS. In that case, replace it with a default Microsoft gauge. Flying the GPS with an HSI works just as well. It is more important, though, to set the HSI course to match the GPS desired track to avoid confusion. How could this be? It's a great flying aid. Here's a typical flight simmer's setup. With a very nice size panel view. But whether we want to pop up our GPS here, or here, or here, it always seems to be blocking something we want to view. A second monitor is worth considering. Now you have something that's easy to read, without blocking anything on the main panel view. This 2-part video on multiple monitors is excellent. Part 1 links to Part 2. Looking for a more economical solution? These old CRT monitors are almost free at thrift shops. But put a test pattern on your laptop to help evaluate those CRT monitors.